Hi guys, David Åhlund here. I'm a product specialist, high-tech product specialist for Roland Europe, and today I have the pleasure to be here and show you some of our gear. And we'll be starting with some of the gear that's been out for a while, which is the AIRA series, the original AIRA series. And we're going to move on to a little bit later. We're going to also show you the boutique series. So here I have my full setup. This is basically a bunch of separate products that do different things, and together they're all really a really nice team. So we'll start here. We have the TR8, which is our drum machine, and this is kind of a remake of classic Roland sounds and from several famous drum machines. So we have the 808, the 909, the 707, the 727, and the 606. These are all legendary drum machines that were made in the 80s, early 80s, and so on. So now we have all of those drum machines basically inside this for a fraction of the price of the originals today. So really nice deal there, and of course with more modern functions and a lot easier to use than the originals. So that's a TR8. We have the TB3, which is our bassline synth, and of course built-in sequencer as well. This one can create really nice bass lines in the style of the TB303, so kind of acid house sounds, but also a whole bunch of other sounds and even leads and effects and stuff like that. We have the VT3 voice processor, which I'll show you later, and we have the System 1, which is a virtual analog synth, but is like several synths in one. And again, we have remakes of the SH101, SH2, famous Roland synths that you can put into this one. So it's kind of a chameleon synth in a way. And finally, all of these are going into the MX1 Mix Performer, which is this is also a mix of things basically. It's a mixer, and it's also an audio interface and an effect sequencer. So you have a lot of master effects and channel filters, and just a really good way of putting all your AIRA kit together and recording them in your studio or taking them out for a live performance. Also, what's great about the MX1 is we have something called AIRA Link. So AIRA Link means I have 4 USB ports here, and I can actually connect my Roland gear, in this case the AIRA series, but also a large part of Roland's products are also compatible with AIRA Link, so we can use other synths like the newer ones, JDXA, the new Juno DS series, and so on. These also work with AIRA Link. AIRA Link means I need no audio cables, I need no MIDI cables. I get MIDI, I get audio, to and from, so both ways via just one USB cable. So it's really, really easy to set up, and also the MX1 acts as a sync central, so when I press start, everything starts here. I want to show you a quick just example of how you can use all these together starting from nothing. The MX1 is my sync central, as I said, so when I press start here, everything starts playing. Of course, you can't hear anything now because everything is empty. So I'm just gonna sort of improvise and start building something, and we'll see what happens. We'll start with the TR8 sequencer here. I'll put 4 kicks, and that's all we have for now. And then we can just start building. So I'm gonna put maybe a couple of claps in. And of course we have step sequencer here. So really easy to program the classic step sequencer way, but also we can record live. So I can go instant record and just go. And now we're recording live. We'll do some ride cymbals. Okay, so maybe now it's time to drop some bass in as well. So I'm gonna just randomly play some bass on the TB3. So now we have a little bass line going. And of course we can live mix as well. So if I just go muting here, tweak the sounds a little bit. Add some effects with the MX1. will add some arpeggio coming from the System 1. So here we go, System 1. Of course, we can play live with the System 1 as well, so we can just play some chords here. Maybe do some singing. And change the pattern. So that is an example of how you can use all of these products together and just build something from scratch. Now I want to show you, you know, the basics of each product separately. So I'm gonna go here. We'll start again with the TR8. So this is the drum machine. So all the drums you heard were coming from this one. We have 16 kits here, so I can easily switch between different kits. I can make my own kits. You can also reset kits, so you can start with a pure 808, a pure 909, and so on. But then you can mix and match the sounds as you please as well. So again, I'm gonna start from scratch with this one. Let me just mute everything else. So we can make a little beat, and I'm gonna call up an 808 kit, so the TR808 here. And now we have that classic low frequency TR8 kit, snappy snare. We have a bit of shuffle here as well, which we can turn up or just make it straight. Let's put some claps in there and some other stuff. You can't be without the TR808 cowbell. Right, so now we have a little beat here, and we can also have a listen to different drum kits. So now we're listening to the 808. Of course, you can tweak the sounds just like on the original. So you can tune the kick, make it go lower, give it more attack, compression, and so on. Same thing with the snare. You can tune it. You can make it snappier, or you can make it more muffled, lower decay, and so on. So this is not sample based, this is all modeling. So this is actually something we call ACB technology, which is basically our engineers have analyzed entire components of analog circuits and then reproduced them digitally. So this gives you a really genuine sound of, for instance, the 808 or any other machine that we're emulating. But enough with the 808, let's have a listen to the TR909 kit. So this is how the TR909 sounds. We'll make it more straight, this one, so kind of a housey. This was used, the 909 is basically an essential part of most electronic music especially the kick and the snare, really characteristic things. So we'll put some more claps in here. So that's the 909, and now we can have a listen to the newer drum kits, which are available with expansion that we call the 7x7 expansion. And now you can also get a 707 or a 727 that way, or even a 606, which we'll show you in a bit. So this is more of a classic kind of 80s pop kit, so we want to go. And again, you can tune the sounds. You can tweak a 707 kit in a way that you cannot do with a real 707. So, and the 727 kit, which is a kind of Latin percussion kit, and finally the newest one, which is the 606. Except that hand clap is not, there is no hand clap in a 606. So now we have a 606 here. And but apart from all of these legendary sounds, you also have some interesting effects on board. We have a bunch of different reverb types, delay types, and we even have an external input as well. So let's listen to the effects. The reverb is, well, both the reverb and delay are quite special because you can actually put them on separate steps. So this is not about just having a general reverb over everything, but just actually put it on specific steps. So if I go, now it's dry, of course. Now we can put reverb on, let's put some reverb on step number 13. Now you can hear that just echoing on that particular step. Same thing with the delay, we can put delay on step number 5. See how that sounds. There we go. So our delay types, we have tempo synchronized delays, but we also have kind of more tape style delay, which is sort of pitch shifting and giving you some interesting artifacts. So those are some of the effects, but we also have some hidden effect type. We have flanger, we have distortion, or sorry, bit crusher. So various kinds of effects there. Finally, we have something we call the scatter function, which is sort of the scatter function is something we have on all of these machines, and we're going to use that now with a combined kit. So now I have a combination of 909 and 707 sounds and so on that I like this. And we'll use this with the scatter effect. So the scatter effect has 10 types. And we'll choose type number 1 here, and we can choose. We can also now choose to increase or decrease the intensity of the effect. And here's the switch, the on button here. So again, I'll play my pattern. Now we can activate the effect by just pressing the on button. And what you hear now is a loop. So it basically samples the entire pattern and then chops it up into small little bits, and then it can repeat them. So you can turn the effect up and then out. So this gives you nice fills and sort of things happening without having to change the entire contents, or actually even having to program fills. You just go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can drop it out. Or try another setting. 2, 3, 4. And now you can of course mix and match with these and just play around. So you get all kinds of interesting things happening. You can even have it drop in and out automatically as well. If you have poor timing, you know, you can just do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it drops out automatically. Let's try it again with another setting. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it drops out. So that's just one of the scatter effects. Let's try another one. We can try number 7. This gives you more sort of pitch shifting kind of artifacts. So we'll try that one. And just turn it quickly on and off again. Well, you get the picture. So we have plenty of well, we have 10 different scatter types, so you can have a lot of fun with those without even having to program fills. Also, every pattern has an A and a B part, so you can easily go, just press B here, and we'll put something on B. And then we can just go back to A, and then back. And finally, you can also change patterns together, so you can play them in a loop. So I can play pattern 1 and 2 in a loop by just holding 1, pressing 2, and that means it will play 1 and then 2, and then go back. Or we can do it with 8 patterns, or we can do it with 16 patterns. So we can play up to 16 patterns in a loop. We can also loop A and B if we want to as well. And lastly, the TR8 has 14 separate outputs via USB. So this means you can use it as an audio interface, but also you can get all of the sounds separately. So kick, snare, hi-hat, everything you can get separated onto 14 different channels via USB. So just record once and you have everything separated. It's 96 kilohertz quality, 24 bits, so really high quality as well. So I think that kind of pretty much sums up the TR8. So we'll move to the next one, which I was also playing with here, the TB3, which is our bassline synth, and it's the name is kind of referencing the classic acid. Well, it was meant to be a bass player, a virtual bass player, but now it's an acid machine these days. So the TB303 sound, of course, is the main bit with this, but it also has a bunch of other sounds, leads, effects, and different functions, because we have a touchpad here which does different things. So we can press the keyboard button and play it like a keyboard, and we can change the octaves here, and we'll change the sounds. I'll start with a dry TB303 sound, because that's, you know, the main reference with this machine. And we have a simple, very easy to use and very fast to use step sequencer on board. So what I can do here is just to go to the step sequencer, and we can listen to what I just did. So that takes about 1 second to do. You don't have to necessarily step record. You can real-time record as well. So we can go. So now we have real-time recorded as well. Now we can go back to the pattern and just add some slides and accents, which gives you that interesting sort of typical TB303 bubbling kind of sound. Let's have some slides in there as well. And we can also listen to some of the different sounds on board. So we'll go to some of the sounds. First bank is all TB303 sounds, but with different effects and different settings. So here's the TB303 again, but with distortion on it. And of course you have like square wave, and we can have a distorted sawtooth and so on. So we have all kinds of TB303 sounds in there. But bank B gives you a whole bunch of different bass sounds. So this is all bass, but not 303, just general bass, synth basses. So anything from really deep sounds to more kind of noisy and dirty. So those are the sounds there. It's very, very easy to program, and and also very quick, thanks to some special tricks we have in here. So what I like to do is the randomizing feature. For instance, I've cleared the pattern now, so this is empty when I press play. And now we can put in something completely random. So if I hold pattern select and press the scatter button, this is still empty, I'll just do this. And now it has generated a completely random pattern for me. We can do it again. again. You can do this as much as you want, but what's especially fun, I think, is to do the half randomization operation. So basically, if I just put some notes in, I'm gonna do it with a single note just to make it really clear what it does. Right? So this is a very flat, just the same note. Now I have the half randomizing, which means it will randomize accents, slides, and octaves. But it will still remain, it will still keep the actual notes that I put in. So I'll try that once. And now you have a whole different groove from what I just did, even though it was very, very simple. We'll do it again a couple of times. Let's do it with some rhythm. Again. So we can just keep doing that and we'll still pretty much sound cool regardless of what you do. Now if we do it with some different notes, I'll put my favorite notes with some blues scale and half notes and stuff in. Like this. Okay, now we'll randomize this one. And suddenly you get this pretty cool stuff happening. Right, and we also have some other functions for the pad. We have XY play, which and keyboard, which lets you play something on top and actually interrupt the pattern that's playing. So if I do this, and so on. We have envelope modulation, but it's not just envelope modulation. It's basically X, Y, and Z parameters that are different different depending on what sound you choose. So let's see what happens with this sound. Yeah, so that one has envelope modulation on it. Other sounds may have different things assigned. So. Let's try something completely different. So go to this bank. And now you have pitch shifting happening and stuff. So this envelope modulation function does different things for different sounds. Finally, we have pattern select here, which lets you arrange and also select patterns really quickly. So if I do this, oh sorry, just put some notes in there, randomize it a little bit. Okay, so I made a pattern there. We can also assign specific sounds to specific patterns. So for this pattern, I want a 22. Right, and then we'll go to the next one. I'm gonna make something completely different. Yeah, this little beepy sound here, and we'll just so now we have a little beepy synth thing going on there, and now we can just jump back to number one. But first, I'm going to assign the sound. So we have C13. Right, I want to assign this specifically to C13. So every time I call this pattern, it's going to use that sound. Right, so now we can jump between these two. So there's the first one and the second one. And you can easily, it lets the pattern play first until the end and then jump to the next one. So we can, if we have a bass drum again, we go to number 2. It plays the first one to the finish and then go back 2, 3, 4. And so on. So you can also play them in a loop. If I just hold the number 1 and go to number 2 like that, then we'll play those in a loop. And so on. And you can play up to 8 patterns in a loop. You can play them like that, or you can play first 1, then 3, then 5 by doing this. So really interactive, basically, and really easy to arrange things when you're playing live. And lastly, I'm gonna make something, a little bass line again. Right, Lastly, we have the scatter function. Similarly to what I showed you on the TR8, the scatter function will give you very rhythmical and interesting effects with the pattern. So, and you don't have to change the contents of the pattern. So let's just go here again, and we'll just press the scatter function. So here we have kind of pitch shifting. We have ring modulation. And we have looping as well. So kind of like repeat, repeat. And you can play around. So again, super nice tools for playing live and just being very impulsive, if you will. Okay, so that's the TR8 and that's the TB3. We'll move over to the next one, which is the VT3. So this is the voice transformer that we call it. The voice transformer, or VT3, is basically a synth, voice processor, and a vocoder in one. So if we turn this on here, check, 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 check. Okay, so this is the VT3. It's a very simple looking little box, but don't let that fool you, because you can do a lot of things with it. We have a whole bunch of effects here, as you can see: lead, bass, megaphone, radio, vocoder, of course, auto pitch or auto tune, robot switch here, and pitch and format. So these two sliders alone, the pitch and format, can do really, really crazy stuff if you just combine them correctly or incorrectly, whatever that is. So we'll go to mix balance here. Now it's fully effect. We have 100% wet signal now. So here's the pitch slider. It has 2 octaves range like this. So we can easily, in real time, just change the pitch of the voice, as you can hear. And we can go a full octave up like that. We can go a full octave down too. And anywhere in between like this. And then we have the format slider here, which makes you sound smaller or bigger as well, without actually changing the pitch at all. So if you combine these correctly, or not necessarily correctly, if you combine these in different ways, you can get, you can get a really big man, or you can get a little girl, or a big girl, or a small man, or anywhere in between. So just by playing with these 2 single sliders here. Cool, so that's the pitch and format. But that's just the beginning. Then we have the robot switch here. So this is the robot switch on. As you can hear, it still kind of sounds like me, but it's a flat note, a single note. I can put that note over there if I want, or I can put it over there. I can change the format at the same time. Yes, and this note can also be controlled via MIDI. So you can control this via MIDI with a USB cable from your computer, and you can actually play the melody like a vocoder. But this vocoder doesn't need a carrier signal. It's just your voice, your real voice. So it basically will sound like you singing, but a lot more in pitch, or at least in my case. So that's the main sort of pitch and format and robot. These can be applied to any effect, but then we have the effects on top. We have auto pitch. So I was using this in combination with the girl voice in the beginning here, which sounded something like, where are you now? Where are you now? So you can easily sing like a little girl with the auto pitch and these settings as well, really easy. And we also have a vocoder here. This is a classic Roland sound actually, the VP330 vocoder sound. Really nice with a robot switch. And it also sounds kind of like Stephen Hawking in a way. So that's the vocoder. It's quite simple, but really characteristic, famous Roland sound there. So really all kinds of really cool effects with the VT3. Also a really nice mic preamp, and it has a built-in audio interface. So if you want to record into your Logic and stuff like that, Ableton. Just use this as your audio interface. Really nice. So that's the basics of the VT3. And next product is the System 1. So we call this the plug out synth. And plug out means it's related to, of course, the concept of plugins in your computer. So we have a set of plugins that are made for this synth. They're referencing old Roland classics. We have SH101, old analog synth, SH2, old analog synth, and so on. I think you see a pattern. We have the ProMars, we have the System 100, which is a semi-modular synth, which is actually more complex, has a more complex architecture than this one has. So these synths are VST plugins or AU plugins, and you can use them as plugins by themselves with no hardware, with their own sound. But then you can also import them into the hardware of the System 1. So that's one of the main features with the System 1. It's the plug out function. And if you look here, we have the two main modes of the System 1. So we have the System 1 here, its own, a unique synth by itself. And then we press the plug out button, then it shape shifts into whatever synth you have imported. I think we have the ProMars in here now. So what happens is you get a new sound engine, you get new filters, new LFOs, everything is literally like having a completely different synth. So we can listen to the System 1 here. I'm gonna go to my little example back here. So again, thanks to the Roland ACB technology that I was talking about earlier, we have really smooth filtering. And a really smooth filter and any slider and the knob setting is very smooth. So really nice for any kind of electronic sounds, really. So that's, smooth synth leads. And then we have sort of bigger kind of super saw stuff. Arpeggio, of course. So regardless if you're into sort of vintage stuff or more modern sounds, this is really suitable for any style, really. And yeah, really nice big bass sounds there. Smooth pads as well. And it's really, really easy to program. You see, we have a bunch of knobs here, so basically anything you can do with this is already visible directly. So you don't have to go into menus and do complicated stuff. It's all here. And when you've made your sound, let's see, okay. When you've made your sound, you can easily just save it by pressing and holding the button you want to save it to. So let's have a look at quickly how easy it is to program. Now we have a basic dry sawtooth wave, and we can start by shaping the waveform. This is quite unique for the System 1, I'd say, because you don't just choose a basic waveform like you normally do, which is sawtooth, square, and so on. But with this one, you can actually shape the waveform as well, so you can get different types of sawtooth waves. So if I just press the keyhole here, now we can shape the waveform. Or if we go to the square wave, of course, this is pulse width. Or if I go to the super saw, we can have a clean super saw. And then we can start detuning it. So that's just one of the oscillators, and we have actually two main oscillators, and a sub oscillator and a noise oscillator as well. So you can make really nice combos, especially with the nice new waveforms that we have here, because we don't only have the 6 sort of standard waveforms, but we also have a set of 6 kind of unique waveforms like vowel and logical operation and so on. So if we'll just have a listen to those, this would be my favorite. This is the vowel. So it's kind of like a speaking sound. You can modulate this setting as well. So if you want to, you can set the modulation to LFO. Now we can modulate it with LFO. Or we can go, okay, we'll keep that. And then we can go to oscillator 1 again, choose logical operation. Get really dirty waveforms. And then we can combine both of them. And maybe put an arpeggio on. Faster. So that's how the System 1 sounds. I mean the System 1 mode itself. Then we can go to the plug-out mode, and here, in this case, we have a Pro Mars in here. So again, like I said before, completely different sound engine, completely different filters, just a whole different synth altogether. So those are a few really cool things, I think, with the System 1. We have some effects here as well. We have reverb, delay, and bit crusher. But in general, you know, really intuitive, fast. I say that too much, sorry, but it's true. It's intuitive and fast, and you can really create any kind of electronic sound really quickly. You have eight banks with 8 sounds in each for both synths. So that basically means you have 128 slots in total. So that's the System 1. Now finally, for the AIRA series here, we have everything, like I said earlier, everything is connected to the MX1. So the MX1 is our mix performer, which lets you, you know, mute, filter, add the DJ style effects, channel effects, sequenced effects, all kinds of things as you're performing or even recording in your studio. So let's go back to this. Let's go back to this and just see what it does. So I'm gonna put in a basic bass line here. Right, okay, so now we have a little groove going. We'll put a little arpeggio here as well. Right, okay, so now we have everything played. So let's have a listen to what we can do. First of all, we can mute everything, including this microphone, and we can also, you know, silence the drums, turn the bass on, and then just put it back. And every channel has its own filter as well, and we have different filters. So this means, you know, we have several types of filters, cutoff filter, even isolators and EQs with, you know, high boost, low boost, these kind of things. So individual channel filter, we can set a different setting for the TB3 and have another one for the drums. So that goes for every single channel. We also have one of the most important things, which is the BFX or beat effects. This is basically a step sequenced effect, so we can go here to beat effects and we can choose a type. So I'll choose the slicer, and the slicer lets you obviously slice whatever is coming in. So we can slice the drums in this rhythm here. So if I just activate the effect for the drums here, like that, now you can see it's being sliced in this particular pattern. And we can easily drop it in and out by just switching it on and off, like that. And let's try it with the bass. We can do something different with bass actually. So we'll go sidechain. We have sidechain compression as well. I'm going to use a completely different rhythm. So this is completely separate per track. So now we want some sidechain on the drums, on the bass. We'll just turn it off, turn it on here. 3, 4. And now you can hear it ducking. and 2, 3, 4. And we can still slice the drums like we did earlier. And then drop everything out. We have the third part of beat effects, which is filter. We can try that on my voice, for instance, which is going into the mixer as well. So I'll choose filter, and we'll create some rhythm here. So let's see what happens here. I'll just switch it on. So you can get nice little filter bubbles. We want to change the type of filter, so let's try something else. I'm also gonna use another effect here. So that's one thing you can do with a filter, just put some filter bubbles on there directly in real time, as you could hear. Yes, that's the beat effects, and more we want to see the master effects. So the master effects basically is something that normally you put on everything, but in this case I can actually also switch it on and off for per track. So I can put master effects, but maybe just use it on the drums. So I'll switch it off for everything else. So here we go. So now you can hear a beat repeat happening on the drums, but the bass is still playing normally. Or I can put it on everything. I can even put it on my own voice. Now for the master effects, we also have something called combi, which lets you actually put a sequence of effects on these 16 steps. So we can have, let's say I can edit it right now. Let's say I want some, okay, I have filter already here. We can put some scatter on these steps, and we can put some bit crusher on these steps, and end it off with a roll. So now when I press the combi button, it's going to play that entire sequence of effects. Let's try it out. Now I also control all of these with this one knob. So that's the master effects of the MX1. Furthermore, we also have some mastering functions here, mastering settings. You can just turn this on and off and just have it sort of compress everything together in a nice and smooth way. And there are a lot of other settings and functions that you can dig into. For instance, we have scene memory, so you can call up all of the settings on the mixer and then store them as well. So let's say I have a solo here, I have a bass solo. So now we can save this setting. Now I have another setting where I want drums only, and I have something with everything, and maybe I have one part where everything is just, we have some filtering going on here. So we can save that too. Right, now I can call up all these settings. So bass solo, drum solo, everything, drums filter, and then back. And you can actually save up to 64 of these memories. So 16 here directly recallable, and then you have 4 separate banks for all of those. And this is an audio interface as well, so you can record everything separately. You can put everything together into one audio interface. That includes the 4 USBs here, and also the bunch of analog inputs that you have as well. So if you have all your IRA gear or other Roland keyboards, which also work with IRA-Link, and then you can use analog inputs, and you can record everything separately. You can send MIDI to and from all of the devices separately as well, and just unify everything as one interface, which is the MX1. So that concludes our AIRA series, I think. So thank you very much for listening. I'm David Åhlund from Roland, and see you later. Cheers. Thank you.